So we grew up, with our parents not so available. Like, if you grew up in the 50s, in the 40s and the 50s, the woman always stayed at home, didn't work. So you always had your mom at home, taking care of you all day. She was never away. You never came home. When you came home from school, you never came home to an empty house. Your mom was always there. And I think that's inbred a lot of loneliness too, in this Generation X, that we were latchkey kids, that we had to fend for ourselves. And also, why we're so lonely and tired, not having any friends. Why don't we have any friends? I think a lot of people are so busy trying to, juggle everything today, because women are working full time. Women have careers, okay? It's not like, growing up in the 40s and the 50s, where women, all their job was to have children and take care of the children in the house. That was their job. The men were the ones who worked. The women were the ones who took care of the house, did all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the child care. That all fell on the woman. And now, woman, like in my parents' generation, it was very easy to make friends, because all of my mother's friends were stay-at-home moms too, because that was a generation when she grew up that the woman did not work. They did not have the career. So like, your friend would be home with her kids, you'd be home with your kids, and you'd hang out at each other's house. One day it would be over your friend's house, the next day it would be over your house. And because she was home all day with her kids, you were home all day with your kids. This was, but this was not in Generation X. Generation X now is that we had to be superwoman, okay? We had to have it all. We had to work full time, bring home all the money. We had to take care of the kids and the house too, while holding on, while doing a full-time job. And we're not just talking any job. Some of them, like the women, have careers out there. They work really hard. They're bringing in, equal pay, or even better than some men. Their salaries sometimes are even better than their husbands or boyfriends or whatever. But they've got to do all that, plus take care of all the kids, plus cook all the meals, plus, and it burns people out, and people have no time for friendships. Like, if you look at the honeymooners, okay, if you look at the Flintstones, which the Flintstones and the honeymooners are kind of like, didn't the Flintstones kind of mimic or copy the honeymooners? In those days, the women are home, so their friends are home, so they get together. Nowadays, it's very hard to get together, and friendships take a back seat. And this is what happened to me. This is why, I ended up having no friends, because my best friend had a career. She was a dental hygienist. She was divorced, so she had to take care of the house by herself. Her children, she had to drive them, because they didn't have their license. They weren't babies, but the friendship kind of, I try to make plans with her. I put a lot of effort into it, trying to get together and make plans with her. But every time I made plans with her, she always canceled them because something came up. I have to drive my son to therapy was one of them. I have to take this course for my job. She was getting licensed into using anesthesia, because she was a dental hygienist. So she got a career advancement, so she could, by having this certificate or whatever, where she can give anesthesia, it earned her much more money. So she had to be taking courses to get certified in that for her career, working full time. Her kids didn't have their license yet. They were too young, had to drive them around. So every time I try to get together with her, it would be like, we'd make plans, and then, I'm sorry, but I forgot I have to do this. And the next time I make plans, I have to do this. So see, with this Generation X is that we've got way too much on our plate. We never have time for ourselves. And this is really sad. Do you ever feel like you don't have any time left for yourself? And when you do, you're so friggin' tired. Like all you really want to do is sit in front of the TV and just, you know, fall asleep. Or just be so quiet and still and not have to socialize. Generation X, where I come from, it's a different way of life now. People just don't have the time that they did back before. I grew up, I born in 65, I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and in the 80s, I got married in 1987. But that's what you did, that's what I was inbred to do, because that was my mother's generation. My mother's generation was, you get married and you have children. That was her generation. She kind of pushed that on to me, where my generation wasn't like that at all. And now the next generation, the millenniums, they're not like that at all. They're focusing on their careers and getting married much later. If you looked at when I got married extremely young at 22 in 1987. If you look at the data now, which I haven't, but if you do look at it, people are not getting married at 22. People, I don't know what the age is now, the average age to get married. But not only that, people are opting out of getting married at all. People are opting out and staying single. People are, opting out of having children. Nowadays, people decide that they don't want to have children. But back then, it was just the thing you do. You get married, you have children. People didn't even question it. I think what is great about my generation now is, even though we're lonely and we're tired, we're starting to question things. We're not going to go along with the herd. We're not going to do what everyone else is doing. If we don't feel like we want to get married, we're not getting married. If we don't want to have children, we're not going to have children. We're not going to be forced to do, if we want to have a life of travel, then we'll do a life of travel. We don't have to buy the White House with the picket fence and be married and have the 2.3 children. Like, what is the 0.3? Like, yeah, I don't understand that. Well, 2 to 3 children, that was then, but this is now. But back then, it was much easier for a woman my age to have friends. Well, not my age, my parents' age. It was much easier for me to have friends when I was in school, when I was in high school, when I was in college, because we're young, we're thrown together 5 days a week in the same classes. Every day you see the same people in the same classes. We didn't have careers. We were just, maybe we had a part-time job. A lot of us had part-time jobs. But then we had the whole summers off. And so it was easier to have friends when you were in school. But then when you grow up and get married and start working full-time and having children, and it's a lot on your shoulders. So I lost touch with people, and I was tired of, putting in all the effort, and they were not putting in any effort. Did you ever feel like that? Like you're the one making all the plans. And my best friend really hurt me. I mean, she lived in Millis, and my handicapped son, if you've seen other videos, I have a severely brain damaged son who's an invalid because he contacted meningitis and encephalitis that eats away at your brain at age 4 from an illness, and he spent 2 years in the hospital. And as a result, because he's an invalid, and right now he's 29 years old, he's a millennium. He is 6'3", weighing like 175 pounds, but he has the mind of a 2-year-old. He can't go to the bathroom by himself. He can't shower, wash himself. He can barely talk. He knows very limited language. Like he's like the mind of a 2-year-old. What, how a 2.5-year-old can talk to you. They can't, like, they don't have any safety awareness. They can't go out in society and cross the street. They can't go to the store and buy, a gallon of milk. They can't wash themselves, or they can't brush their own teeth. They're in diapers. That's my son. So he stays in, a residential place with other men that are severely handicapped like himself. And he got moved to a place in Millis, and my best friend Holly lived in Millis, and I told her, Holly, isn't it awesome? My son lives on the same street that you do. Her house is, how close I could walk from my son's house to her house. And never once, and I told her, I see my son 2 or 3 times a week. We saw Alex 2 or 3 times every single week. She just bought a house, okay, in Millis. I could stand in my son's yard and throw a stone into her yard. Never once did she ever invite me to her house. Never once. Into the house she bought after she got divorced. I've been to her other homes when she was married, but she got divorced, and never once was I ever invited. And how many times did I have her at my house? How many holidays on Christmas? When her husband was working, I had her up. And, I told her, 2 or 3 times a week, I'm in your backyard, literally, like almost standing in your backyard. And I told her, I'd love to see your new house, Holly. You bought, picture your best friend, all right? You bought a new house. Wouldn't you want to show your best friend your new home? And I never saw it once. She got a beautiful little white 𝗚𝗁𝗏 dog too. Never saw her dog. And then she acted dumb. I said, I never even see your cute little dog, And she goes, oh, haven't you seen my dog? Like acting like, oh, I thought you did. Playing dumb, gaslighting me or whatnot, making me think like, I never even stepped foot in her house. So I try to make plans with her over and over and over again. She'd make the plans, she'd cancel the plans. And this would happen repeatedly, and I grew tired of it, I don't know, it's with these women. I've earnestly tried to make friends with other women, and it's not like they live in another state or something. They only live like 40 minutes away from me, but they're wrapped up in their own life. So this is very difficult to have friends now, because they have their own life, and especially at my age, it's very hard. It's very, very hard for me to make friends because I don't have a job in the outside world. My job is, I'm an author. I write, as you can see. I make money from the sales of my books, and I monetize on YouTube. So I make money from my YouTube channel. But I work at home. But so does my husband, and he has no friends. He's a computer programmer. He makes 6 figures, and he makes good money, and he works at home. He has an office upstairs, and my son, who lives with us, who's 27 years old, he has 2 bachelor's degrees. He's very close to getting his master's degree, and he goes to school full time to get his master's. He's going to get his doctorate too. And that's why he's living at home, because he's in so much student debt from loans that he can't afford to, even though he's making a pretty good salary. He's 27. He's not making 6 figures, but his salary is pretty good. He's working full time. He's going to school full time and getting his master's degree now. And at the same time, any money that he earns is all going to student debt, because he got 2 bachelor's. He got 2 bachelor's degrees, one in public health and one in business. So it's, he works in a crisis text line, and he makes pretty good money for his age, not like what my husband's making. My husband is 60 years old and he's been working all his life. But yeah, he works at home and goes to school at home. He has 2 humongous computers in his room. I mean, humongous. So he's in one room working and going to school. My husband's in another room working full time. And I'm down here in the basement. This is the basement in my office. I'm doing my videos and writing my books. I have a book out once a year. So I do a lot of writing and I do a lot of videos. I do a video every day. But we don't have any friends because we're tied up in doing our own thing, that we don't see people. So if you don't see people, how are you going to make friends? On the weekends, we have, like I said, we have a severely handicapped son with severe brain damage. The weekends are all tied up around Alex. We see Alex on Saturday. We go down and visit him where he lives. And then we pick him up on Sunday and bring him home to our house. So he comes home and I cook him a nice big dinner with dessert and everything. And so the weekends are all tied up too, doing yard work. We own a home, so we have a yard. We have to, rake it, manicure it. We have a lot of work. I mean, so we're tied up in all these things. It doesn't mean I wouldn't make time for a friend. I surely would, but I try to reach out to people over and over again. I try, and people are tied up in their own lives. The only connections I have for friends are on Facebook. That's the only way I know what's going on with people, is through the social media. And that's another thing with Generation X, is social media. Because of social media, it kind of gives us the facade that we really are close to friends when we're not close to these people at all. When's the last time you spoke to the person on the phone? When's the last time that you saw that person that you're friends with, good friends on social media? When did you, go out to lunch with that person? The last time I went out to lunch with a girlfriend on social media was years ago. I'm thinking 10 years ago. I think it was 2014. It might have been another time after that. Her mother passed away, and I went to her mother's wake a couple of years ago. I don't remember, but I went to her mother's wake. I paid my respects to her mother, and I saw her and her family there. But we didn't spend. Of course, it was a wake. I went through the line. I didn't talk. I didn't have any time talking to her or spending any social interaction with her. So, people just put friendships on the back burner. So I think that's what the problem is. That's why Generation X doesn't have any friends. They're all wrapped up in their own life and what they're doing, and the friendship takes a back seat. Friendship is, like a garden. You have to water it. You have to take the weeds out, weed it, water it. You have to put the time in. If you just, don't spend any time with it, all your plants are going to die. You have to, nurture it. And if you don't nurture your friendships, then all your friendships are going to die. So this is what happened. I tried to nurture, but it takes 2 people. One person can't do all the work. One person can't carry the whole relationship. It's not going to work that way. It has to be somewhat balanced. And with my generation, it just is like all social media. That's the only time, people, they'll spend all this time, it's amazing that they have so much time to spend liking and commenting on your videos or your posts, but face to face, why? Because they're multitasking. This is another thing in Generation X, multitasking. So they might be, commenting on your video when they're cooking dinner. They're making dinner and, oh, yeah, like, comment, cool video. Or, when they're going grocery shopping or, while they're doing something else because they're multitasking. They never just take, they never can carve out a chunk of time and say, hey, look, let's get together for an hour for lunch this week. What day are you available? It never happens anymore. That's why, it's very sad, but this is the state of affairs. That's why Generation X is lonely and tired from being overworked and not valued. And it's just not a very satisfying life. So let me know what you think. Let me know, first of all, if you're Generation X or what generation you are. Tell me about, do you have trouble keep maintaining friendships at your age, whatever your age is? Do you think it's harder for people older like me who are 59, Generation X people? Or are you younger? Maybe you're younger watching and you're saying, tell me about that. Let me know, because I want to hear from you. I value what your opinions are, your thoughts, and your struggles. So please reach out to me and let's talk about it. Let's talk about why it's becoming a severe crisis that people are so lonely, so tired, and unsatisfied with their lives, and friendless too, with no friends.